Hello and welcome to another episode of the Weekly Wednesday Warrior. This is my Captain Kirk impression.
I know, a real William Shatner going on here.
In bright and sunny Port Ewan, New York, my name is Skylar Hathaway.
I'm Chris Potter.
This is Chris Potter, sponsored by Tile Card Games and Comics. What do we got today, Chris?
We're going to be talking about Detective Comics 1072 and Local Man number 2.
Our third comic is my Baja Blast. We'll be doing a slow and tasty review of such beverage. So I'm going to start out with Detective Comics.
Yep.
Which is unusual for this show. It's usually our last book.
Right.
And we're not taking anything away from Detective. This just happens to be one of the issues that they're putting together that is not like as heavily plot driven necessarily.
No.
It's more like an action issue, trying to get some battles going, get some confrontation going, get some climax going.
Yeah, move the story forward.
It's also Act 2 of Gotham Nocturne,
Mm-hmm.
and it has its own name. I think it was The Fall.
Yes.
Which plays theme to what happens in the actual issue and stuff.
Right.
You want to hit us with that summary, Chris? I don't know what happens.
Yeah, sure. The book begins with a flash forward. Batman is fighting the Elder Organ, the one in Gotham, Arzen, right?
Yeah. And
Arzen Organ.
The opening page is really good too. It's like some red, blues and stuff. Batman's been defeated and stuff, and Ivan Reyes is doing the art in this book. And for a while, they've been like swapping art duties and stuff. He does the art in the whole book up until the backup story.
He does?
It's all Ivan Reis, yeah.
Oh.
They panned it out like this as if it was like, these are the people on the main book, but what this is that's the main book writer, that's the backup writer, that's the main book artist, anchor, colorist on both.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I thought that was weird. I don't think they've done that on these issues of Detective. I think it's usually just the main team. And then you get to the back and you find out who the backup team is in the back of the issue or whatever. That being said, man, this comic is really colored really beautifully.
Yeah,
from the front
really
to the
strong
back.
colors.
Mm-hmm. So Batman's being beaten by Arzen.
Yeah.
And we skip forward real fast after that. There's a big splash page with Arzen Orgum on it, and then we fast forward, or rather flash back to what had happened before Batman went to confront Arzen.
Yeah, Batman has like a group of Bat family members with him. It's him, Cassandra Cain, and Dick Grayson as Nightwing.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just kind of, the Organ building is opening, and they're trying to make sure everything is going okay. Batman now has the full picture about the danger the Organs present, and he wants to just make sure nothing goes wrong on this opening day, because he thinks something's going to happen today.
Mm-hmm. So he's got his most trusted teammates doing the work that he won't be able to. So he's got Nightwing on the streets. He's got Batgirl underneath the streets.
Yeah, she's looking for people in cages. People, I guess, the Organs had kidnapped.
Yeah, what I thought was cool about that, too, is Cassandra Cain is playing the role of Batgirl, while Barbara Gordon's playing the role of Oracle. And they could have chosen any Batgirl for this. It could have been Spoiler. Could have even dragged Babs out of Oracle position. But they chose to go with Cassandra Cain, and they chose to go with Nightwing. They also could have pulled like a different Robin for this. But I think that this particular mission and problem that Batman is facing is making it required for him to rely on those that he not only trusts the most, but feels is most capable.
Mm-hmm.
And no offense to the other Robins or anything, but they've never taken the mantle.
No.
Like, in continuity, Dick Grayson has been Batman.
Yes.
And then even, Cassandra Cain is, and Batman said it a couple times, is a better fighter than Batman is.
Yeah.
So if you want somebody underground handling all of the action, Solomon Grundy and stuff, it's probably going to be Cassandra Cain. If you want somebody to handle the people, to handle, like, crowd control, it's going to be somebody who knows the role of Batman. So Nightwing's a perfect choice.
And I think, like, writing-wise, thematically, those two characters make sense. Because Dick's whole run has been about protecting the people on the streets, making sure people are okay.
Yeah.
Cassandra's a past in being kind of caged.
Yeah.
tortured to some extent.
Yeah, but also like protecting the people on a more underground level.
Right.
She's very
much more
sympathetic.
shadowy.
Yeah, but she's got the same kind of background as Dick and Batman have.
Yeah.
These are two really good picks. In the midst of the fight, there's a line that Dick delivers. There's this civilian guy who's got all hulked up and raged out on the Asner. The Asner. Why did they make that so close to the guy's name? Arzen and Asner?
Yeah.
It's like the same letters, but, mixed around.
Maybe we're going to find out that they have some relevance.
I hope so, because otherwise it's just silly that we're trying to dance around this. But anyway, he's fighting this thing, and then Batman's like, "Oh, they're allergic to cold," over the bat comms.
Yeah.
And Dick Grayson's like, "Yeah, well, now if I can get a 200-pound rage demon to give me a minute while I find an ice machine." This is a good little comedy line in a book that has next to no humor in it whatsoever. But yeah, they're all fighting and stuff, and this is about the point that I wanted to mention pace. This one moves a lot more than the other issues of Detective moves, and I think it's because it's supposed to be this big climax of the book where this is the climax, and we're going to start hitting the resolving action kind of stuff in the next issues coming. That being said, this is only Act 2. We got a whole nother act after these issues are over.
Yeah.
Being that. What else we got, Chris? What else happens?
All right. Batman is in the sewers, like a different sewer system. I think he's under the Arzen building. Well, Cassandra's in the sewer system, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And he runs into, like, the monsters, the organs have sent to him, the Ten Claw, and the Flesh Eater?
Something like that. It's
Doesn't matter.
Arzen's crew of people that he's brought to Gotham.
And he handles them pretty easily after talking to Talia. He knows what they're like.
And he had already
Deal
been
is-
planning on handling them well, and he just got even more advice from Talia. So
Yeah.
they literally proved to him no challenge.
Yeah, he dismantles them very quickly, and then he runs into Arzen Organ. And Arzen is kind of like he's like bragging him a little bit. He's fighting him. He's winning at first. He's like, "Hey, this is what's going to happen in the next couple minutes. You're going to have to make a choice to beat me or help the city, because there's all these bombs planted around the city, and I've..." at the same time, Orgum is telling Batman this, Cassandra finds all the cages are empty and they've gone to the streets, and we find that the person Dick is fighting was one of these people in cages. They've all been injected with the Asmer, and they're planting these bombs, and they're in the crowd just to cause more chaos.
And to be honest with you, even before we got to that scene that we see the empty
That's
cage,
right, there's
Well, I'm not even talking about that. Even before we get to see the empty cages and we see the giant monster and Nightwing's fighting, I figured if you've been reading this book, you've already put two and two together even before you see the empty cages.
Oh yeah.
Why do they have all these people? They've even said that they were testing on these people, the Asner or whatever it's called.
Right, it's just our characters are putting it together.
Our characters are putting it together, but we already know. We see the crowd, we see the people in the streets, we see the people going to this gala or whatever. We know that all of the civilians, or at least some of the civilians that are in there, have been seeded with the stuff.
Yeah.
And are going to cause a huge problem for the audience at large.
It's good dramatic irony, I would say.
If there's 200 people in that square area of Gotham City, all it needs to, out of those 200 is 10 or 20 of those people to rage out, and they'll murder everybody around him.
Yeah.
So Nightwing's got his hands full for sure. Probably he's going to need some help and backup from everybody else once this thing starts to really powder keg off. But there's a moment that Chris was about to get to with they cut to Jim Gordon real quick in the midst of all this fighting to show him what he's doing, and he's trying to go to Montoya so that Montoya can help the Bat Fam more or less manage what's going on. But Montoya's trying to tell him that she's got her own leads that she's got to chase, that she's onto this in some format, just not in the same form of his, Jim Gordon realizing that this is magic related and stuff. One of the lines that Jim Gordon delivers I thought was really meaningful. I pulled the page out just to read it. He says, he's talking to Montoya, and he's kind of losing faith in her. He says, "I don't believe I ever made the mistake of valuing the optics, the politics, or the chair over asking the right damn questions." So he's trying to get her to realize that there's more at stake here than she's aware of. And she seems to be valuing her position as the commissioner more important than the lives of the people in Gotham, which is pretty ridiculous. And in that moment, during that, and I'll pull the page up, in that moment when he says that, they do a flashback of a couple issues ago when she looked to her desk when there was no crime going on in the city, and she has her old question uniform.
Yeah.
And the last line in that statement I just said is the question. It gets her questioning herself all over again, going back to her basics which is to be the detective that Renee Montoya has been led to, who she's been developed into, taking the role of Vic Sage. Even that's quite a role to fill, some shoes to fill.
Yeah.
So in any case, they have that chat, and Commissioner Gordon leaves and pissed off, and then Batman goes and takes care of the Arzon's guys, and then Arzon shows up and starts to fight him, and there's that fight is mostly in the first couple pages. You see where Batman's really standing in that fight, right. But in those first couple pages, there's a villain monologue from Arzon. That kind of makes this whole entire problem that's going on about these cities and the taking back of them and bringing them to what they're supposed to be, and the mission that Arzon is on. The monologue that he gives to Batman makes it seem like this whole thing is actually just about Batman. Mm. That Batman is the one who's bringing the city down or something like that, and that if it wasn't for Batman, this whole thing would be a lot easier, and Batman's the virus that they need to cut out, or whatever it is that he says specifically. Yeah. And I thought that was interesting because it seems like this story as a whole is the tale of two sons, which is a tale as old as time. And it's such a tale as old as time that it was the same tale that Talia al Ghul had told to Batman earlier in the story, between Ra's al Ghul and Arzon's dad. So now who's filling those positions? It's Arzon filling the position of his father, and Bruce filling the position of Ra's al Ghul. Maybe a little swapped, though. Arzon seems to be able to want to make the decisions that his father wasn't able to make, and that's that he does want to take the city for his own and turn it into whatever he needs it to be. For his mother, more specifically, too. Yes. And Batman seems to be the one who's like, no, you seem like a decent dude. Like, we don't need to do this. You can walk away. You don't bother fighting me. There's no point. This is my city. You're not going to do anything here. And so this ongoing theme of these two sons, these two cities, the things that have set up the past for the people in the book and stuff, are really, really based and ground at this point in this climax. You can see it all happening and unfolding in simply just the battle mechanics that are happening in between the panels and stuff like that.
And I think this battle and the external conflict sort of parallels a couple issues ago when at Wayne Manor they had a very similar conversation. And so that's just a theme they've been repeating throughout the book, really building up to. Yeah. Which is why we're not saying the pace of this book is any lesser than the other issues. It's just a lot quicker. There's a lot less to digest here.
Yeah, specifically the pace of this issue, specifically. Yeah. Not the book going forward, but the pace of this specific issue moves just a lot faster. Do you remember where Batman actually has this fight with Arzon? Where is this place?
Yeah.
Is it just underground Gotham?
I think it's under the building.
But I was just assuming that. Yeah. It's underground, under the tower, the Arkham Tower that they built or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. And so the issue comes to a close, right? With they're in the middle of that battle, and there's no real victor necessarily. Oh, and then and then all the bombs that get set off that Montoya was following blows up, and the Arkham Tower, or whatever it's called now, is going to be destroyed in the next issue for sure. Probably with a bunch of Rage Demon Arzons running around and stuff like that. And then we have the backup story. Before we get there, let me make sure that I picked this up. My note says Batman and Arzon resemble Ra's and Arzon's father. We said that already. Making decisions surrounding a city. We said that already. Talia made a comment about the fall of cities.
Yes.
And I think that this particular issue is called The Fall. So I think that's kind of the theme here is Batman's falling. He's more or less failing to do so. Arzon's falling too. He's falling into his mom's tricks and not doing the things that he should do, which to his family is to reclaim his city, not to make it your own and kind of destroy it in the process. And even Montoya is falling a little bit into being a commissioner and not doing the things that she's supposed to. So the fall is a solid theme for the issue. And furthermore, Talia talks about the fall being specific in relation to cities really being the fall of people witnessed only by bricks and mortar. So the city itself would probably be fine, the buildings that stand in the streets and stuff, but it's the people of Gotham that are going to suffer through this battle between Batman and the Organs. Yeah. So it's they're doing a really good job of keeping theme. I can't state that enough. The backup continues Talia's story from the story that she was telling Batman earlier, a couple issues. And I know we've been complaining about the backup. Did you read the backup?
A little bit.
It was better than the past backups they've been doing.
I imagine.
It's not the same writer. It's not Ram V. It's this guy Dan Waters. But Dan Waters has done some good stuff. He did. I didn't read this miniseries, but he did the most recent Azrael miniseries.
Okay.
And it got people that read it told me they liked it.
Okay.
Yeah. So the name of the backup too is called "The Things That Must Die," Part 1, and the backup is actually really good. It's almost written just like this stuff. It's really thematically heavy. Mm-hmm. It starts out as this kid, Arzan, a young Arzan, has this tree that him and his dad planted. His dad goes off and dies. He gets news that his dad dies. And so he's got this tree that still has last living remnants of his dad. And so he wants to make sure that the tree lives. The tree keeps on withering, and he doesn't know why. So he pulls the roots out from the weeds around the tree, and that doesn't work. And so he moves another tree out of the way so that the sun can get it, and that doesn't work. And some of the things he's doing to the property are gifts from other people to Arzan's father for doing respectable things through time, or just gifts from the people. And he's kind of just tossing away these monuments of
civilization,
symbolism.
Okay.
These monuments of symbolism to feed and nurture his own thing of symbolism.
Right.
So it's kind of counterproductive, kind of hypocritical. He's a kid, so he doesn't really notice what he's doing, but this goes on and 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 on. And eventually the tree dies anyway. And he just doesn't understand, why the tree has to die. And I think the lesson that comes out of that is exactly the title, is that things that must die. This guy, Arzan, just doesn't understand that some things you can't save.
Right.
And that only fits further into the theme of Gotham and the city that his father tried to go and save and stuff. And also important in this backup story, what also falls is the caretaker for Arzan also dies in the process of protecting this tree. There's like some ninja dudes that come to try and kill Arzan from the League of Shadows, and that they instead of killing Arzan, they kill his caretaker, and the story ends. Really good backup.
Yeah, that sounds like a...
You should, next issue you should reread the backup, because if you're going to read the backup, you're going to need to read this one to read the next one.
Right.
But even the art is stuff that they...
I saw that first page. It was okay, this is going to be good.
They threw Stefano Raphael. Yeah, the first page, I'll pull it up. It's this really shocking image of a loose eyeball and a tongue from a dead man. And Stefano Raphael I haven't seen him do this kind of art before. Last time I saw him, he was drawing Solomon Grundy in this book. Oh, yeah. And he made Solomon Grundy look monstrous and crazy.
Yeah.
He's clearly versatile. I mean, it's like these church backgrounds and stuff in here are beautiful. And the tree and all the stuff. So this book was really solid.
Yeah. As it has been every week.
Yeah, and I want to make a habit of asking these questions. Why should you buy this comic? It's the best Batman book on the wall.
Yeah.
It does everything a Batman book needs to do and more. This feels like a movie that you're watching slowly, or an opera, or something that is slowly, happening before you. It's very play oriented. If it wasn't for all of these bombastic creatures and big dudes and magic, I'd almost say you could take this and put it on stage.
I even think those elements make it very Shakespearean.
Yeah.
Like very Midsummer's Night Dream.
Yeah, we're dealing with like family ties and the things that bring us together and stuff.
No, this book doesn't remind me of how a comic is written. It reminds me of like a play is written. Or something like that. And not in a way that like the art isn't being carried by the writing. It's not synergistic.
Oh, it is. Totally.
It's a beautiful mix of genre or writing styles to make like a really unique comic.
And I want to state too, we've been we've been having the pleasure of seeing Ivan Heiss stuff for years and years and years now. He was on Detective when Tynion was doing it too.
Yeah, he was doing a good job too.
He was doing a good job, but I've never seen him be utilized the way he's been utilized in this run of Detective. Even Heiss has such an ability with the images that he creates that it's almost a damn shame that nobody's been utilizing the way he's been utilized in this.
I'm going to throw a shout out to the Ra's al Ghul book, because I think that did a good job with him.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think it's good of a job as this is doing, but I thought a great job.
Maybe it's just because that was a one-shot. There's a lot of striking pages in that I can that come to my brain before.
How about a smiling Ra's al Ghul at the end of the issue?
Yeah.
As he's like holding a puppy and looking at the sun.
Great stuff.
But the thing is that is not the kind of thing that I would give to Ivan Reyes. I think his strengths belong in shadows and darkness. So I'm not saying that page was lacking. That's one of my favorite pages in that book.
Mm-hmm.
But this dude shines like crazy in this book, and for
Yeah.
issue after issue after issue after issue. Ram V is must have read some Yvonne High stuff because they're doing a really good job together. It's not quite as married as like Local Man maybe or Moon Knight, but it's damn close.
And I think it would be. It's just that there's such a rotating cast of artists. We haven't got enough time.
Yeah.
Or...
Yeah, and the other thing is too, it's a Batman book, so you might not even have that opportunity to build that kind of merriment just because of how much the editors might come down on you to do really specific things in the title. When you write a Batman book, you have to have a splash page every issue, and I think it has to be the second or third page in the comic book. There are really specific. If you ever talk to Batman writers, they'll give you the list.
Yeah.
There's a whole list of stuff you need to do when you write a Batman comic. Why was this book good? We pretty much went over why it was good with the same reasons of why you should buy it. It's just the best Batman book on the wall. And there's too much to be said about it, really. You know, you could write a whole comic book based on this comic book, on, you know, the themes and the things going on and stuff like that. We only have 2 comics for this episode of the Weekly Wednesday Warrior.
Right.
But we feel totally filled this week. I don't feel like I missed out on anything. I don't have a complaint that they should have put out more comics this week.
No.
If they put out comics at this level every week and I only ever got 2 or 3 comics every week, I'd be pleased.
Yeah.
Because these are awesome. This is why we read comics. Thoroughly entertained, you know? There's not anything that's going to make you look away from this panel or these pages as you're reading them. Unless you had to.
Yeah.
You got anything to leave off on here, Chris?
I would love to sing Ivan Reyes' praise as much as possible. There was one thing I noticed. There was like a weird readability thing for me. There's a panel where Nightwing is grabbed by the Asmer guy.
Mm-hmm.
The next panel is his reaction, and we don't see what happens because he like grabs Nightwing. We don't see him pull away or anything. The next panel, he is just away from him, stanced up. And I thought that was like if the reaction panel just had like a shoulder turn or something to it, so it looked like he was pulling away, it would read just a little better. I'm kind of picking at straws here. It's just something I noted.
That might have been a pacing reason too. I'm sure that would be included in a book like this with these guys who are been doing comics for just such a long time.
And I don't think we threw up this cover. This is a great cover.
No, yeah, that was going to be what I said. It's by Evan Cagle. He does really good stuff. Wouldn't be surprised if this is an after Topi cover again.
Yeah, I was going to ask if saw that.
This stuff was not this time. All right, Local Man.
Yeah.
Local Man. So we got Local Man issue 4.
I pulled out the B cover, which isn't as good, but
It's a good
thought I'd
call.
show it off.
Yeah, I don't remember who did that cover. That was my least favorite cover they've done so far.
For sure.
But the main cover is by Tim Seeley.
He's doing a good job as always.
And he doesn't usually do the main cover. He usually does the backup cover. It's usually Tony Fleecs on the main cover. But I wouldn't have thought that Tony Fleecs had even skipped a beat on this. I only noticed that this was Tim Seeley now that I'm looking at it. But boy, this book is better than Detective Comics this week somehow. And I want to sit some serious praise up here. Scott Snyder, probably the top 5 famous person writing comics in this industry right now.
Yeah.
Gave it praise. It's only 4 issues in. Scott's obviously reading comics.
Yeah.
Which I love. That goes to show that Scott's he's immersed. That man will never.
Oh yeah. Have you
never
seen
stop
his
reading
like
comics.
class stuff? He does that. He like breaks down comics. He
I
like,
know,
he
yeah.
picks up current comics that he's digging.
Right. I was about to
He's
say
like,
that.
here's all the cool writing things they're doing.
He does pull out current comics instead of he does do some background too on older comics, but he tries to pull out new comics to do these lessons. And I've seen people I haven't seen his show, but I've seen him pick out people like the people on Little Monsters, like Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nogoyan. So anyway, I'm going to read this, what Scott Snyder said. It says, one of the best new series I've read in a long time, a darkly funny but deeply sincere superhero noir. The only thing I disagree with this is that this is a noir by any level. I don't think this seems like a comic book.
Yeah.
I guess noir is kind
just
of a loose...
detective
Is
story.
right, noir is kind of a relatively loose term to use these days. But to me,
I would never use the word noir unless it was in black and white. I feel like that's what that entails to me.
Yeah.
Is a specific type of mystery story in a specific visual language.
Yeah, that's definitely what it usually goes for. I don't think that this is a noir by any means, but
still, Scott Snyder giving it praise.
Yeah, that's
probably one of the most well-known comic artists.
Yeah.
If you ask people on the street, or comic writers, if you ask people on the street your favorite comic writer, if they even give you an answer, there's a good chance it's Scott Snyder.
Yeah, and you don't usually waste cover space on a single issue over quotes and recommendations. But that's at the top of the issue before the even the title is. So just goes to show this guy's doing a great job. He's also writing Money Shot, if you're interested, Tim Seeley. So what do we got in this book? We got the death. We already have what's her face died in the last issue, and then Local Man goes. He needs to go to the quarry. So I think this issue it opens up. He's already at the quarry, right?
Yes, he's outside the gate,
and he goes in, and shortly after he looks around the quarry, he's found by the police officer that's married to his high school sweetheart.
Yeah,
and the guy's trying to be like, "All right, man, you got to come with me again." Because the Fright died, and you're the only suspect, all over again, and it's too coincidental, and I let you go the first time, but this doesn't make any sense, so you gotta come with me.
And Local Man was at the scene. The newspaper we got last issue, he throws right back at him, he's like, this is you, and there's a great joke, there's tons of them throughout this issue, where Local Man's like, that's not me. And the cop's like, you are wearing the exact same outfit, the ski mask doesn't hide your identity at all.
The only thing he's not wearing is the ski mask at the quarry.
He gets mad at him. He's like, you're wearing the same clothes. And so, why are you even trying to lie?
And like Local Man's hands are up, or like one of his hands are up, and he's carrying the puppy in the other hand, and so the cop's like, you're not gonna fool me, and he just turns around, he jumps into the quarry.
He shoots him with the rubber band. He throws a newspaper at him that's rubber banded. Off panel, he takes it off and flicks it in his eye.
And you don't even see the flick of the rubber band. That was the only thing that I thought was missing from this issue, too. Like,
just a panel from going.
Similar to what you just said about Nightwing. We were missing like one in between the panel, probably just
helps it to read.
So and they had to, in word bubble, they had to, like the cop had to go, you hit me with a rubber band, just so they didn't have to spend the time in a panel to describe.
And it's not too bad, just because of the way Tim Seeley writes things. I feel like
it was humorous.
He's. It's not him explaining he got hit by a rubber band. The joke is that he was hit by a rubber band. He's like embarrassed.
Yeah, it's contact. It works really well contextually. And then Local Man jumps into the water-filled quarry.
Yes.
With no intentions other than to escape, but he dives. He dives deep enough that he sees some sort of lit tunnel.
Yeah.
So he follows the lit tunnel. And he's got his dog in hand. Who I guess is good at holding its breath. I don't know. He's like, you can't go into a quarry, swim through a quarry, swim through a tunnel. And he's holding the dog the whole time. Like, I feel bad for both him and the dog.
Yeah.
And Chris was telling me about how he appreciated this panel. And when they come into where the tunnel leads, he pops the dog out first.
Yeah.
Before he even comes up for air. Which is only just further goes to show how good of a person Jack Xavier really is. This is a good dude. And so they come out of the water, and they're in this villain's lair, effectively.
Yeah.
And there's the like golden ship thing that he's been chasing is there.
Yeah.
Which makes me think that the
Fright Mercy Seat.
Yeah, which makes me think that the Fright might have been covering Camo Crusader a little bit on some level, because she claimed that was nothing but a token for a sponsorship, when it was totally more than that.
Yes.
Totally more than that.
I think they mentioned that the Hodag found this or something, that him and the Fright knew about what Camo Crusader was doing. I forget why, but that's why they're dead.
Makes sense. So, Camo Crusader shows up once Local Man is there. And it's just like, we could have been friends.
At first, Jag is happy to see him, gives him a hug.
Oh, yeah.
Touches him, and immediately is like, you're not wet. There's not, like, another entrance into here.
Right, because he thinks that another hero has showed up, so there's about to be a team-up. So we're about to take down the villain. And then, no, he is the villain.
Yeah, and Camo Crusader knocks him around.
For a while.
Yeah, and he's just screaming at him.
Yeah.
About, like, how he's indignified him by
Yeah.
what he did with his wife and what
Yeah.
he took from him.
Yeah, so we start to get let in even further into the love triangle that was Crossjack, Camo Crusader, and
Neon.
Neon, whatever, and we're led to believe that that even before we get to the backup, that it was Camo Crusader's idea.
Yes.
That his wife hook up with Jack Xavier
to give him a child.
We find that out in the backup, but in the A story, you get the beat that maybe Camo Crusader's just a cuck.
Yeah. he's lost it to some extent because like this was something he was okay with at a point in time, and it just drove him crazy.
Yeah. So
the longer it went on.
And he even says in the A story that she would have gave you anything, even more than she'd given me.
And then he later tells him, like, I would have shared everything with you, even my kids.
So
He's
this was I don't know that this would have panned out for anybody. And that's also something they mentioned is Xavier's like, yeah, you would have, but CrossGen was not having it. CrossGen didn't give us the go ahead. PR said this was a bad idea. So, anyway, cop shows up.
Yes.
He's swimming. Comes in the same hole that no, doesn't swim through.
There's
Finds
like
the
a
entrance.
firework or something.
Yes.
Something goes off when the cop is going after Jack, and whatever happens, he follows it in.
Yeah. He finds these. I think the same entrance as Camo Crusader must be.
Yeah.
And
it must like set something off when you go in.
And Camo Crusader starts to talk to the officer and like say thanks for what he does and all of that good stuff, but he's being real threatening in the process. He walks up to the officer and he chokes him, right? Like picks him up, chokes him in the air, and Crossjack like has a bow and arrow. I don't remember what.
He has like a stash of weapons, and it's just something that falls over when he's fighting.
And I guess Camo Crusader has a stash of weapons there.
Yeah.
And so he picks up this bow and arrow. It's the only thing that he can't shoot properly. And he aims and he shoots. And he hits Camo Crusader in the eye with an arrow.
He misses correctly.
Well,
he was going to shoot him in the hand.
At first, we're not under that impression. He shoots him. He goes down. The cop gets up. And the cop's like, yo, thanks for saving my life. And then local man goes, I meant to shoot him in the shoulder. Or hand or whatever. And so Camo Crusader's down. And the cop is like doing something, collecting himself or something.
Yeah.
Local man goes over to Camo Crusader. And Camo Crusader's like, we could have had it all. You done screwed up. Well, and my students are gonna come for you now, or something along those lines.
Yeah. Well, it's not quite that
cheesy,
obvious yet, because he's been trying. What Jack initially thinks is Camo Crusader's trying to gain immortality, and I think Camo Crusader says something to that extent as well. He wants to give something on to the next generation because he thinks Jack stole his child. Whatever is up with this child that him and Neon birthed, it didn't go the way Camo Crusader wanted.
Right.
Something's off with it, or he just lost his mind. So he's trying to harbor the next generation through this, the God Seed or something.
Yeah, and he's been taking students from the training facility in Farmingdale, I guess.
From 4th Gen.
Just like, which is the building that we were confused about an issue or two ago with that 4 on it.
Yeah. We learned it's just like a community center slash police
we thought it was like a community college, which it kind of is, but there's scenarios. And so I guess he's using this AFEC engine to give some ability or powers or whatever to some of these students that he'd been training over at the 4th Gen facility. And
Jack only puts it together once he makes it to the 4th Gen facility, because he kind of blacks out after fighting Camo Crusader. The cop takes him there because he's like, I had to report this in. I'm a good officer.
Yeah.
As soon as the Bible Belt finds out you killed Camo Crusader, you're not going to be able to go anywhere.
Right, yeah.
Your life is going to be hell.
Right,
so all I can do is try and get the truth out in the air.
Right.
Cover for you, more or less.
And the reason it's happening at this 4th Gen facility is because, like you said,
it's just a black site.
So the police in Farmingdale own a portion of this facility. It's a black site for the police to utilize to their advantage. So he takes him there so that nobody knows that he's there, because I guess he's worried about the PR.
Well, he's worried about Jack and what Inga will do if Jack gets hurt.
Okay. That's a good point. Then he leaves Jack alone, and Cameron Crusader is thought to still be just dead in that room somewhere.
And Jack is like just kind of looking through what's left, and he finds the 4th gen files, and he kind of puts together what Cameron Crusader already said about giving something to the next generation. He's like, oh, he's been using this facility in Farmingdale the whole time, and this god seat or whatever to give them powers or something.
Where does he find the files? They're just like sitting in the office or something?
Yeah.
There's a lot of convenient moments in this comic, huh? With the bow and arrow, with the files being in the right place, with Cameron Crusader showing up at the right time.
Yeah, but that's kind of just... It's convenient, but adds to the brisk pace of the book. Because I feel like this issue is a very dramatic pacing turn from the first 3. I thought... The first 3 issues led me to believe this was an ongoing.
He swims with these weapons on his back. He swims with the quiver on his back the whole time. The quiver comes with him, and then he does knock it over in battle, but he's swimming with the quiver the whole time. I didn't realize that.
No.
He gets woken when he's at the black site. He gets woken up by Pepper licking his face.
No.
Oh, yeah, and there's this moment. There's like a Bruce Wayne moment where Camo's down, Xavier's down. The cop's the only ones that's up. And he's like sitting next to 2 dead bodies that are almost the exact format of Bruce Wayne's parents in like year 1 when they died.
Oh yeah.
I feel like this is supposed to mean something here. I'll pull the page up so you guys know what we're talking about, but I don't know if it's going to go anywhere. Oh, he gets. Oh yeah. The files are just there.
Yeah, I guess they never
there.
Evacuated the facility.
You know, and it might have been something that the cop was looking at even before he went, just for like research purposes on what's been going on in Farmingdale.
Oh.
But then the cop leaves the black site facility, and he gets murdered, presumably
by a member of 4th gen.
By what we think is a member of 4th gen, or at least
some sort of teleportation.
At least one of the crazier dudes that Cameron Crusader has been abducting.
And now he's going to go kill Jack. The issue ends with him going into the 4th gen facility.
Yeah. And then we get to the B story. There was an in between. As there always is, where Tim Seeley talked to us for a little while. And there isn't a whole lot I got out of it this time, except there's a lot. No, it was still good. It was just, I think he almost like apologized for being complaining.
Okay.
Because he was complaining a little bit in the last blurb or whatever. And there's a point in his thing where he does say, maybe the story isn't meant for interstellar sex robots. I don't remember what reference that was to, but
that's the beginning of the B story.
Oh yeah, that is. So I guess I just didn't pull anything out of this. Oh no, I totally did. I just didn't make a note of it, but I totally want to read this little portion. Tim Seeley says he's talking about how the best comics that are made are the comics that people care about making. And he says, so look, no one has to like my take on things. Hell, I don't even always have my own viewpoint. But we can't make stories that aren't about something. And we can't make something you care about if we don't care about it.
Yeah.
And I didn't write that down because that's not necessarily true, to be honest with you. There are plenty of things that people don't care about that other people do care about. Perfect examples, half the manga that we review on the weekly Shonen Jump. A lot of the people that create that manga don't seem to really care about the future of that manga or what happens in that manga despite them creating it or not.
No, but I think once that happens, you can tell. I feel like...
I don't know. Well, maybe me and you can tell, but that doesn't mean that there's a billion other Dragon Ball Z fans that are just stoked to see the new transformation that Goku's got going on that Akira Toriyama had nothing to do with. You know, there's a lot of forced stuff in Dragon Ball Z that I'm sure Toriyama has no idea is going on.
Yeah.
And could care less about. Literally could care less about.
Caring less is the right word, but Eddie has no insight.
And that's what I'm trying to say.
I think everything but Super Saiyan 4 is designed.
And that's what I'm trying to say here is people don't, once something is so mastered in a way, the care doesn't need to be there as much as its consistency does. People will buy Batman comics and X-Men comics just because they have Batman and X-Men on the title.
Yeah, they have to complete their run or whatever.
Or just because they honestly just like the stuff, just because of what it is. And that doesn't mean that there was any care provided into the creation of the thing. But what I will pull out of what Tim Seeley says is I definitely appreciate the things that people care about when they create it. And I can tell. And I think Chris can tell too. So we're going to go to this backup story, which was also really good. Short, as it usually is.
I think this was the best backup.
It was the least image. All right, so I feel like this backup story, as opposed to the other backup stories being Image related or Image homages or whatever, that this is more of an X-Men homage, and I think most of it is because of the whole throuple thing going on.
Yeah.
You know, Wolverine and Cyclops,
or just there being soap opera drama.
Yeah, that too. But all points of this I thought felt like the X-Men up until they basically land in the Savage Land.
Yeah.
They get stuck in the Savage Land, and Krostak has this whole red and yellow thing going on, and Camo Crusader has like a yellow thing going on, and just it all. Just it all reminds you of X-Men over and over and over. There's no Image title that I can compare to this kind of stuff that's going on. You know, not that I've even read that many Image titles to have that ability anyway.
And talking about him using Youngblood as a reference, he's really going for like a modern Liefeld thing with a little bit more polish, I would say.
Okay.
Just the way he renders faces, the way he draws eyes.
Yeah.
It's very Liefeldian, just with like different construction underneath, I would say.
So the story is about Local Man and Camo Crusader and Neon after the giant Hell Heaven battle that we had in the last backup.
Yeah.
Surprised we're even elaborating on that at all, honestly. They land on this planet. Oh, they were in space for some reason?
Yeah.
They were in space for some reason. I shouldn't even look into this, because the backups are meant to not be taken that seriously.
You know, it's like...
So they're in space for some reason.
It's the end of like a ridiculous crossover event.
Huge crossover event, and they land on this planet, and this planet basically looks like the Savage Land from X-Men. And right before that, there's this great joke. They're trying to like help out this robot race or something like that. And the robot's like, Infinities thinks this is such a strange story. Your god impregnated the man, Joseph's wife. What is the lesson of this? Camouflage crucible? And then Camo Crusader or maybe Jack, it's Camo Crusader narrating. Says maybe this story isn't meant for interstellar sex androids. As he's trying to like explain Catholicism.
He tries to bring Catholicism to space.
Pretty good stuff. But they leave those cyborgs and they get crash land on a planet that looks like Savage Land. Yeah. And in Savage Land, they're there for a while. It seems like they find food, they hunt, they eat. They're living together. They're almost having a good time. It seems like they're bonding. Camo Crusader and Xavier are really like becoming buddies and stuff.
Camo Crusader is almost acting like a father figure to him. Yeah. There's this really great scene where Jack explains like his trauma using bows. It's like a psychosomatic thing, why he can't use bows, and it has to do with his father. And Camo Crusader helps guide the arrow through him, acting as like a more tender father figure for him. You know what I got from that instead? What? I thought that he wanted to join in on the sexual activity between him and Neon. I thought that this was Camo Crusader, because he really does. He gets up against this guy's back, shirtless,
and they're both shirtless.
You can't see their pants,
and they're holding the bow and arrow together, and they shoot the thing together. It's like
it's vaguely sensual.
Camo Crusader's pouring it on pretty thick. Yeah. You find out by the end of the B story that Camo Crusader is doing all these things to be nice to Jack because he likes Jack so much that that's who he wants to father his child with Neon. Yeah, because whatever gives him his powers, whatever Christian thing, it's made him he's barren.
Infertile.
He's barren. He's got nothing. He's got no spunk.
And he wants to father Christ, is what he says.
Yeah, he's crazy.
Yeah.
For sure. But
this is what proves that he's crazy, I would say. Because we learned he initiated the relationship. Because I think this is the first time they've had sex. I think they allude to that. Yeah. And in the last backup, too, it was Neon and Jack, for the most part. They were talking about how Neon said Neon says that Camo Crusader wants Krostak to like Neon. Yes.
And I didn't really understand what the background of that was, aside from just building a good superhero team. Till this issue, you realize, maybe from the get-go, maybe from first meeting, Camo Crusader's like, this is the guy. This is the guy I need to fuck my wife. And so they do. At the end of this backup story, there's a tent scene, Austin Powers level. Have you ever seen the second Austin Powers?
No.
There's this great tent scene where it's Austin and his co-spy, and they're in a tent, and the bad guys are going up to find him in the tent. but the light is on in the tent. It's casting a shadow.
Yeah.
Austin Powers is like bent over, and his like co-spy makes it look like they're pulling shit out of his ass. There's a bag like behind Austin Powers, but you can't tell that there's a bag because the Austin Powers' shadow is in front of the bag. So she keeps pulling things out of the bag, obnoxious things like a canoe, and it's coming out of Austin's butt. And so they do this shadow thing with the tent, and Cameron Crusader is on the outside, basically like praying to God, is what it looks like.
Sitting there,
to the sky,
smiling.
Pleased to some extent. And that's where it ends. So
there's like some crazy line where it's like, I'm content to hear the chirping of the forest and my wife's moans as she fucks another man.
Yeah, it's
crazy.
It's more power to him. I ain't the judger of a lifestyle or anything like that. We live in the year 2023 where everything's acceptable. You can fucking go. Probably nobody would say anything. But did not see this story going this direction.
No.
But it adds so much more to it, though, right? Because what's Tim Seeley really doing?
Well, that's the tragedy of Crossjack, I feel like. Because he didn't really do anything wrong. We're slowly finding out.
He's an adulterer. He's okay with adultery. But that's a moral compass kind of thing. Not necessarily a I did wrong to a human being or anything. Right? Yeah. And the adulterating situation is even so that he was doing them a favor.
Yeah.
So the only thing he really did do wrong is theoretically in the eyes of everybody else as being an adulterer. And it's just not acceptable in the society that he lives in. But other than that, he's probably your ideal superhero. He's definitely not as crazy as Camo Crusader. No. And he's definitely more morally correct. He wants to help Hodag and give a reason to the man's death and stuff. But Tim Seeley he's doing a great job. I don't know if anybody's bothered to do this much work for the throuple thing that has happened between Cyclops and Wolverine and stuff. We've heard jokes about it for years and years and years and years, but I don't know anybody's poured it on this thick or connected dots.
No,
this hard. The X-Men weren't ever religious though, so I don't know that this definitely isn't a direct interpretation at all.
Yeah.
But does make you think.
Yeah.
What exactly were Scott's intentions, and letting Jean Grey have so much time with Logan there. Maybe Scott did not have what it took.
He's got kids.
He does have kids, that's true. But I don't know, Cable comes from the future, it could be his kid.
He has a real baby, though.
Yeah, that does happen. And we see, the Cable baby a bunch of times.
Yeah.
So in any case, I think this book is still playing off of some of the great things in superhero comics over the course of time.
Right, yeah.
And nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. It's funny. It's dramatic. It's action. Why should you buy this comic? This is probably the best book on the wall, period. If you don't like this book, you probably don't like comics. I think we've said that even before. This is the comic book for comic fans. You're a comic fan, you're going to enjoy this comic. You're not a comic fan, don't pick it up. This ain't for anime fans.
No.
This ain't for your average, I like to watch giant robots fight each other.
Yeah.
This is for, you like those dumb Image titles? Buy that. Oh, you like X-Men? Buy that. Oh, you like subtle shots taken at Christianity? Buy that. Oh, you want to see just Tim Seeley, free range, do what he wants to do with a comic book? Buy that. It's for comic fans. So much so that even comic book industry people are giving it praise. And it's definitely not the big book on the wall when you look at a wall of comics.
No, Donny Cates is also releasing books at Image. There are more high-profile titles, but this is like a sleeper hit.
Yeah, this is a sleeper hit. And me and Chris picked this up on one name alone. Yeah. On Tim Seeley's name, we picked this up, and both of us were mind blown by the first issue.
Yeah, it was really good.
So here we are, 4 issues in, and it's still at the top of our bracket. You should buy this book.
Yeah, I was say, I feel like this is ending soon. I felt like the first 3 issues were a slow burn to some extent. This issue ratchets things up a ton. We move the story forward a lot. I don't know how much juice at least this part of the story has in it. We could go somewhere else and it could keep going. Yeah. But I feel like we're almost done with this story.
Yeah. There's a lot in this book.
Yeah, there's a great joke when they're in the jungle where Cameron Crusader... Well, Jack asked Cameron Crusader how Neon's surviving as a vegan.
Right.
Because they're all just eating meat from random things.
Right.
And Cameron Crusader just goes, she's so strong. Her will is like iron. doesn't explain
It
anything.
doesn't answer the question at all. But that's a classic Image title answer. Yeah, I mean, I hope this doesn't end. And not only that, but I think that there's like the other people on cross-gen. Like maybe they can do something with those characters. Maybe we'll even have spin-offs that aren't necessarily about Crossjack and are about the other characters. Maybe a couple one-shots or something like that.
Yeah.
There's plenty of potential in this book.
I always dug it when Invincible did that.
Yeah, it's a nice reward for the people that are reading the comic. And also the writer. The writer has all these characters. You know, why wouldn't you want to give them the time of day if you have the opportunity to? So we've pretty much beaten this to death. The only thing that I think I have notes on are mostly story unrelevant. Aside from this one, is that Pepper is still confusing the heck out of me. There's something up with that dog, and I just don't know what it is.
I think it's just a bit. I'm accepting that's just a joke that Tim Seeley's doing at this point.
Maybe
I think it's just funny that he's always around.
Almost everything he does has an ulterior motive, though, even if it is just a joke. Even a perfect example was the joke about the rubber band.
Oh yeah.
The whole point of that was to like show us that he had been hit by a rubber band, even though it was a joke about a rubber band.
Yeah.
That's gonna come around. It's gonna come around.
Yeah.
And
Ancient could still be the main villain. I was gonna say
I'm
that.
still convinced too. I think that could be the second.
Because at this
story
point,
arc.
like,
I think that could be the second story arc.
Cameron Crusader can just give powers to anyone through the Godstone.
Yeah.
He could have given them to Inga. She would have a motive.
They could even be cahoots.
Yeah.
This story kind of gave me that feeling that maybe Tim Seeley always wanted to see this throuple story unfold too. Like he wanted to tell it himself and give a reason to that throuple thing going on.
Yeah. The money shot writer likes sex stuff.
It's Hack Slash is all about that stuff too. Tim Seeley's art in the backup is really good, like Chris was saying. It's like Rob Liefeld, but like professionalized, basically.
It's his inking style over a very refined pencil set, I would say.
And you know, I've for weeks now I've been trying to like figure out Tony Fleecs' inspirations and stuff. And I was noticing some like Capullo line work in this particular issue. Okay. And I was also noticing the way that he uses blacks on specifically clothing reminds me of Francesco Francavilla.
Yeah.
The way that Francavilla uses blacks. And if the only two people I have to compare you to is Francesco Francavilla and Greg Capullo,
You're doing a good job.
you're doing it, bud. Keep it up, Tony Fleecs. But that's about it. You got anything else to add over here, Chris?
No.
That wraps us up for this episode of the Weekly Wednesday Warrior. Thanks for watching. We got June 2003 Shonen Jump coming up soon, probably in 3 weeks or so.
Yeah.
Check out the playlist. We just moved the Weekly Wednesday Warrior stuff to the podcast area, so if you want to just listen to us instead of watching us, you can do that on YouTube now.
Sweet.
Like, follow, subscribe. Thanks for watching.
Have a good one.